Daniel Morgan had always believed that speed was the answer, that if he could just run fast enough, through the street crowds of Manchester, past the noise of his failed relationships, beyond the shadows of his father's disappointment, he could outrun every regret that clung to him. So on that rain-soaked Thursday morning, when he rushed down Oxford Road, late for the most important job interview of his life, he never imagined that destiny would force him to stop. The traffic light flashed red, the rain hammered the metal roofs, and Daniel's heart pounded not just with the weight of opportunity but with the gnawing fear that this was his last chance to prove to the world and himself that he was worth something. He sprinted across the street despite the horns and the slippery road, clutching a folder that held his dreams, but in that moment, a white van came skidding toward him, brakes screaming, people shouting, and everything turned into slow motion as Daniel felt the violent crash throw him into darkness. When he opened his eyes, there was only silence. A cold sterile light above him, the faint beeping of medical machines, and for a brief second he thought he saw his mother, who had passed away 5 years ago, standing beside his bed with a gentle smile that said both, "You survived, and your life must change." But then she faded, and nurses came rushing in, surprised that he had come out of the coma after 2 days. He learned the job opportunity had gone, the company had moved on, and he felt that crushing despair of losing everything again. Yet there on the hospital table was his phone, with one unopened voicemail from his old school friend Martin, who he hadn't spoken to in years. With trembling fingers he pressed play, and Martin's voice, calm and strangely timely, said, "Bro, I know you're always in a rush, but maybe life doesn't want you to race, maybe it wants you to pause before you destroy yourself. Slow down, it's not the promotion that proves your worth, it's who you become." Those words pierced Daniel deeper than the accident had, and as he lay there reflecting, something shifted. Maybe this crash wasn't punishment, maybe it was mercy. When he was discharged, walking with a slight limp down the same Oxford Road weeks later, he noticed something he'd never cared to see before. Homeless teenagers sitting by the side, soaked and hopeless, ignored by the world just as Daniel had once felt. He sat beside a boy no older than 16, offered him some food, and for the first time in years, he listened not to his own echoing ambition, but to someone else's silent cry. Every day after that, he returned, bringing sandwiches, talking to them, helping them find shelters, and slowly, people started to recognize him, not as a failed job seeker but as a man who brought light under the grey English sky. Months passed and Daniel started a small support group for homeless youth. People donated, local news channels covered the story of the Oxford Road survivor who turned his accident into a mission, and Daniel felt a sense of purpose greater than any promotion could offer. One evening, as the sky turned orange over the old university buildings, a stranger approached him, a man in a suit with kind eyes, and said he'd seen Daniel's work, that his foundation wanted to partner and fund a full-time youth center, offering Daniel the role of director. Daniel looked up at the street sign that said Oxford Road and realized he had finally received a second chance, not the one he had originally chased, but the one his soul truly needed. He recorded a voice message to himself that night, the way his friend's voicemail had once reached him. "Dear Daniel, you had to break to begin again. You thought you lost everything, but actually, you were being guided. Don't ever run past the miracle disguised as a disaster. And whenever